Today we're going to talk about a movie that none of you know exists. I'm going to start this by saying, I don't care. I'm a giant Phil Collins fan. I am. My favorite singer has been my favorite singer since I was a kid. I love Genesis. Genesis is like, that's my band. That's my jam. And they become more popular. Like when I was a kid, it was like Genesis was they just done their last album with Phil Collins, and they fell completely out of favor with everybody. Like they were never quite cool, but they were complete musical outcasts in the 90s through much of the 2000s, up until there was this sort of renaissance for Phil Collins and Genesis about 6-7 years ago. People started to reevaluate them. Artists that grew up with them, like Adele, were citing them as huge influences. Phil always says that the problem with his career, the reason why things went bad, was that he was omnipresent. Between doing his solo stuff and the Genesis stuff, he was constantly on the radio. You couldn't escape him in the 80s. He was everywhere. People don't remember. He was up there with Michael Jackson and Madonna and artists like that. He's not remembered the way that they are, but he was selling albums up there with them. He also had a movie career, though it didn't quite go very well. And today we're going to be talking about a movie that nobody knows of, and that is Frauds. Now, what I have here is my Phil Collins DVD collection. Yes, I made this because I am a huge nerd. Basically, it's got 2 documentaries on it, and the movie Buster. Now, this is the better known movie that he did. It was the first one he did. It got pretty good reviews. It was a bigger hit in the UK. It didn't really make much waves over in the United States, but it was something that you could at least find. The movie we're talking about today, Frauds, is a movie that you can't find, and as you can see, mine is a burned copy. There's no DVD. I had the VHS cassette. I transferred it to a DVD. They never released a DVD. I think there's an Australian DVD, but they never had an official release in the United States or anywhere else in the world of this movie. And I don't know why, considering some of the crap that gets released on DVD. Movies that nobody's ever heard of. Well, if those movies got released, why not Frauds? I don't know, but for a while it was available on Amazon Prime. I don't think it is anymore. Frauds is the story of this married couple, one of whom is played by Hugo Weaving, who would of course go on to play Agent Smith in the Matrix movies. And he gets the bright idea of committing insurance fraud. He's going to stage this fake robbery of his home, and he doesn't tell his wife about it. And so the wife catches this guy in a mask in her home, and she kills him. Really, this guy was their friend. This guy was like he was just doing his buddy a favor. They were going to commit insurance fraud, split the money. But things go south. She is now guilty of murder. He's guilty of insurance fraud and probably would get some sort of a manslaughter charge or something on him as well. And they are in trouble. They have to circle the wagons. They have to come up with a lie. Enter Phil Collins as a out of his goddamn mind insurance investigator. Roland Coupling is his name, and everywhere he goes, he carries these dice with him, and he's constantly got them in his hand. It's sort of a nervous habit that he's got. And he decides, based on the roll, it's sort of like Two-Face, flipping the coin. Based on the roll of the dice, he decides that he is going to torment these people. He is going to blackmail them. He is going to force them to play board games with him and hang out with him. He's out of his freaking mind, to the point where, like, when Hugo Weaving goes to his house and sneaks around to find out stuff about him, the house is literally a fun house. It's literally a giant playground. And it's a great performance, actually. Much better, in my opinion, than his performance in Buster, where he was playing kind of a romantic lead. This, he gets to go full crazy, and he's great at it. I don't know why this movie isn't more of like, has a cult following. I don't see that it has any cult following. It's a movie nobody acknowledges exists. And that's incredibly disappointing to me, because I would love to have a cleaned up DVD of this. And, you know, if it hasn't happened by now, it's never going to happen. I can't even tell you how to hunt this movie down. I wouldn't be surprised if you could just look it up on YouTube. But, yeah, it's something that you'd have to hunt down a VHS, or you'd have to buy the Australian DVD, and unless you're in Australia, have a region-free DVD player. It's a real disappointment that this movie doesn't have more appreciation given to it. It's gorgeous to look at. The director went on to do Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. He's very visually imaginative. This is a movie that I absolutely, if you can find it, I absolutely recommend that you give a chance. Sometimes movies just don't click with people, and I don't really get it. Now, if I wasn't a Phil Collins fan, would I have ever watched this? No, probably not. I'd be just like everybody else who hadn't heard of it. But if I had somehow come across it, even if he wasn't in it, but you had an actor who was giving a similarly deranged performance, I absolutely would have fallen in love with this. He's like Pee Wee Herman if he was homicidal. It's bonkers. Frauds. I'm giving this 3 stars out of 5. If you can find it, absolutely give it a chance. And if your whole thing is like, oh, I'm watching a Phil Collins movie, you don't have to like his music. He doesn't sing in the movie. He doesn't have any music on the soundtrack. This is just him as an actor, and as an actor, he kills it.
The worlds.
Sort of gave myself the challenge of, okay,